She's so boring, my sister mocked me at her wedding. Then her groom froze. He rushed to his father, a 4-star general. He whispered, "Dad. It's her. The legendary soldier." The general immediately stood up and saluted me. "Ma'am," he said. "The honor is ours to have you here." My sister's world collapsed. "Hi. My name is Sierra Langton. I'm 41 years old. I serve as a colonel in the United States Air Force. Most of my work, let's just say it doesn't get discussed at dinner tables, and definitely not at weddings." That night, I sat at the last table, table 19, tucked behind the champagne bar, right next to the restrooms, no name card, no seat assignment, no welcome hug, just a folded napkin and a glass of water. Waiting like even the staff hadn't expected me to show the reception hall was something out of a bridal magazine, crystal chandeliers, a string quartet near the fountain and a glowing ice sculpture in the shape of a swan. My sister Savannah always did like drama. She called it romantic flair. I called it exhausting. I hadn't seen her in 3 years. The invitation came in a glittery envelope that said, "Dress code, sparkle or nothing." I wore my service dress uniform, not out of pride, not even out of protest, just because it still fit and it still meant something, at least to me. I was refilling my glass when Savannah tapped the microphone. She stood in the center of the dance floor, hair perfectly curled, diamonds catching every spotlight. She raised her glass, looking right past me. "Let's raise a toast." She smiled wide to my sister, Sierra. She came all the way back from outer space, Cyber Command, some secret base. Honestly, I don't even know anymore. Laughter rippled across the room. "She's so boring." She went on. "I mean, who takes notes for a living?" GPS jokes. Anyone more laughter? I heard someone at the next table say I thought she worked at NASA or something. I didn't flinch. I just set my glass down. Let the joke land, let it echo. She'd always done this, turning rooms against me without raising her voice when we were kids. She'd play the princess. I'd be the dragon. And even now, in a ballroom packed with 200 guests and a custom monogram on the dance floor, she still needed me to be the joke. Why? I could have stood up then. I could have spoken. But legends don't argue. They wait. And in that moment, I waited. I noticed the change before it happened, a shift in the air, a silence too precise to be accidental. Eric, the groom, froze, glass in hand, smile faltering, his eyes flicked toward someone at the head table seated next to the father of the bride. Was a man I hadn't expected to see, General Marcus Weston, 4 stars retired, but still powerful. His posture, still military. His eyes sharper than ever. Eric leaned in, whispering something into the general's ear. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw the reaction. General Weston turned to look directly at me. It wasn't a glance, it was a scan. Recognition lit in his eyes, slow, sure and steady. Then he stood, the chair scraped sharply against the floor. Heads turned. He stepped forward, adjusted his cufflinks and raised his hand to his forehead, a full salute. "Formal, unmistakable, ma'am," he said, his voice clear, carrying across the hall. "The honor is ours to have you here." The room fell into stunned silence. The music stopped. Forks froze halfway to mouths. One of the bridesmaids gasped audibly. Savannah's jaw dropped. She looked at her new father-in-law, then back at me. "Wait," what she whispered, but no one answered. All around the room, military officers began standing one by one like a wave of acknowledgement. A young pilot in dress blues, a naval commander in a wheelchair, even the wedding DJ stood hand on heart. They all faced me, and still I hadn't moved. The microphone slipped from Savannah's fingers, crashing to the floor with a loud pop. It sounded like a gunshot in the silence. She stepped back, blinking fast. Eric reached for her hand, but she pulled away, and in that one moment, the room turned not toward the bride, not toward the dance floor, but toward the woman at table 19, me. I didn't smile, didn't cry, didn't stand. I didn't need to. I nodded once. It wasn't permission, it wasn't humility, it wasn't even pride. It was confirmation I was here, and for the first time in a long time, they finally saw me, not as Savannah's sister, not as the wedding's awkward relative, not as someone to mock, erase or ignore. They saw me, Colonel Sierra Langdon, the woman they'd almost forgotten, the legend they could no longer deny, and I wasn't going anywhere. 4 years before the wedding, I was in line for my first star brigadier general. After 2 decades of classified operations, a dozen overseas deployments and enough commendations to cover a hallway wall, the board finally saw fit to nominate me. It wasn't a surprise. It was overdue. The interview was scheduled for Monday. On Friday afternoon, I received a message from a senior clerk, "Colonel Langdon, please confirm your withdrawal from the shortlist." My stomach dropped. I hadn't withdrawn. I called the Pentagon, got transferred, waited on hold for 2 hours, no answers. When I finally got through to someone in records integrity, they sounded uneasy. "Ma'am, a letter was submitted anonymous, alleging falsified mission credit and exaggerated leadership roles. Due to the sensitive nature, your name has been paused from consideration." I didn't yell, didn't threaten, didn't even ask to see it because I knew exactly what had been said. I didn't need to read the letter to feel the knife. Still, it took another week to get a copy unofficially through a friend and admin who owed me a favor. One look at the wording, and my hands went cold. Colonel Langdon has a pattern of claiming credit where her actual involvement was limited. I saw firsthand how she overstated her role in Operation Granite Fall. She was barely more than a liaison officer. It was nonsense, but it was strategic nonsense. Granite Fall had been buried in layers of bureaucracy, hard to verify, harder to disprove. Most of the unit logs were redacted, but there was something else buried in the third paragraph. Was a word that stopped me cold, irregardless, spelled just like that. I hadn't seen that word since high school because no one used it except Savannah. She used to throw it into debates just to sound more important. I remember a teacher correcting her once, and Savannah snapped back, "Well, it's in the dictionary now, so I'm not wrong." She'd use it every chance she got after that, her own little rebellion against sounding average. I could still hear her voice mocking. And just like that, a chill ran through me. It wasn't proof, not legally, but it was personal proof. Who else knew enough about Granite Fall to spin a lie? Who else would care enough to drag me down on the edge of my promotion? Someone jealous, someone who didn't serve but always wanted the spotlight, someone who saw my rise as her fall. It wasn't enough for Savannah to ignore my career. She had to erase it.